I mean, I remember the umpire calling timeout one time. Come on, so what's the problem? He's like, your left fielder is in a fight. I looked out there, and my left fielder is rolling around on the ground with two other people who had jumped the fence while the game is going on. Because I told you these kids had problem lives. They were two of his friends from school. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Man, I ran out there. There was a year in my life where I coached baseball. And my wife, we had such a turbulent little league experience, little league baseball. And the problem was not the kids. It's the parents. And look, since then, I've heard horror stories about parents lose their minds over the game of baseball. You get into the travel ball world, it just becomes so dramatic. And we had multiple bad experiences in Little League where it's just drama, people, cops coming over the parents.
Yeah.
You know, coaches quitting, cuss fights, punches thrown between parents at umpire through the years. And so my wife, she was like, well, why don't you just coach the team? And I'm like, you don't want me to do that. You don't want me. I kept saying that, and it just infuriated her. And she was like, why do you keep saying that? I was like, because I'm going to do it right. And what I mean by doing it right, I will stop my life, and we will have a year of where it's done right with kids. And so when my second son, when he reached 14 years of age, and it was his last year of playing, was technically Little League. You know, after 14, you move on, start playing school ball, that kind of stuff. He asked me to be the coach. And I was like, he said, I'd just like to have a fun year and do it the right way. And I was like, you know what? I'm in. And then Missy, a year later, realized why I said, you don't want me to do that. Even though it was a great experience, and now it's her idea, not mine. She thinks that what happens in that year is movie worthy. And I actually agree on what happened. I'd like to name it the Good News Bears.
Yeah.
See where I'm going? Going with this? I'm not sure I can legally or technically name it that.
No, you could.
But me and three other men that I handpicked, because I said parents will not be involved. I actually made the parents sign a contract that they would, you know, it was kind of the little saying about umpires, you know, do their job, coaches coach, parents cheer, the kids play the game. You know, that you find this is your role, you cheer. So I used that to get them to sign a contract that if they did anything other than cheer, I had the full responsibility to eject them from the stands to being further away, which actually happened in game one. After the first pitch of the first game, I called timeout, pulled the pitcher, ejected the mom, and then the three guys that were with me, who were all Jesus-loving people but knew the game of baseball. I had a guy who coached semi-pro baseball for 20 years. We had the leading home run hitter in the history of our local Little League. He set the record for the most home runs ever, which is our friend Martin, who is a big guy. He loves Jesus. And then we had Jase Stone, who had coached and worked with kids sports.
He actually played junior college baseball as well. So
yeah, and so my role, I was the manager of all this. As far as the technicals of baseball, I'm not an expert, but I had three guys who were. And so we took those kids, and I drafted all the troubled kids. I think 9 or 10 of the 13 that we wound up with were from broken homes. And so we turned the baseball field in this 1 year into a safe place. When we walk onto this field, this is the safe place. That's why I wouldn't let any outside distractions. And as far as coaches, we never argued any. One time, Jay, there was one mistake made, and I was like, go fix yourself. We don't do that. It was a bad call. I mean, the guy missed the call.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, no, we overcome any adversity, And so we lost the first 2 games, and then we never lost another one. And it was a pretty remarkable story. And one of those kids who are on our team is now, fast forward, however long ago this was, 15 years ago, he is now in a Major League Baseball organization. So I'm saying I'd love to follow all those kids and see what happened, but I think it'd be a good movie. So that I'll get with Zach and
the good news bears. I mean, we're always looking for a good project. I think that'd be a 8 out of 10, Jase, on the
But and look, we actually brought a couple of the parents to the Lord during that process, and this went beyond baseball, because what I learned was everybody loves a winner. So at some point when we turned it around, well, they were all on board because we were winning.
Yeah. I mean, the same commitment and attitude if y'all had lost every game.
Well, that's right. And the way it started, I mean, we lost the first 2 games, and our catcher, because when you draft all these players, I was just picking on talent. I didn't care about the attitudes and all because I thought we'll have a spiritual foundation where we're going to give these kids a rebirth opportunity, on the spiritual side of things. But at the end of the draft, well, there's always a couple of kids who's never played baseball. And now they've decided at 13 and 14-year-old league, they're going to try it. Well, you don't draft them, they just give them to you.
Right.
And so really the best thing that happened to us was our 2 last draft picks both got injured in the game. So we got to replace them. Well, then I had to get into the rule book and see who we could pick up. Well, one of the guys we happened to pick up is the guy who's now in the Dodger organization. So that
helped.
But all the storylines and the details would make a great movie, because when this kid showed up, all these parents on the other teams, there was one stacked team because they're like, we're going to have the all-star team. See, they had already predetermined who was going to go to the All-Stars. Whoever wins the league gets to be the All-Star coaches. And when we won the league, everybody was against me because they're like, well, we already had this set. Our kids are going to be, And so I'll go ahead and give you the climax of the movie. After we defied all odds, came back, won the league, I go to the All-Star meeting and said, look, been a great year. Appreciate it. I will not be the all-star coach. We just wanted to have a season for those kids. And so good luck to you, And so the look on their face, because the whole time I was trying to take on the establishment. It should be about the kids. It's not about you trying to, win like you're going to win the World Series or whatever. And so it was a great experience, but it was a year of my life where that's all I did 24/7. I mean, it was all about the kids. And so those 2 guys that got hurt, though, I just remember because one of them, this was such a great moment in my life. This kid, he was scared to swing the bat. He's 14 years old. He's never played baseball. We're out here, 13 and 14, they're throwing pretty hard. We're playing the real game of baseball here. And so I just thought, well, I'll teach him how to bunt. So that's all he did. I was like, at some point in this season, you're going to be called upon. So we lost the first 2 games. He never would swing the bat. Our third game, we only had about 8 people show up. So we're getting an out every time our 9th man is supposed to show up. We're losing 13-1 at some point in the third game. So a lot of things happen. We make the greatest comeback that I've ever been a part of, win that game 14-13. And the reason we did is because when this kid was up at the plate, there was 1 out. And if he doesn't, and we had 2 men on base, the tying run and the winning run. And so I realized if he gets out, then we get an out because we have an empty slot. The game's over. So I call a timeout. We got to tie and run on third. It's 13-12. I said, look, I am going to call a sacrifice bunt. Do you know what that is? And he was like, no, sir. I said, when that pitcher is in his windup, I'm going to send this man from third. He's coming to the plate that you're at. You square that bat around, and you put the bat on the ball. Because if you don't, I'm going to look like an idiot because I'm sending this guy. He's coming. And so actually I forced him in his mind. He was like, I have to do this. I was like, it must be done. And so I said, that's what's going to happen. Get up there and do your job. He squares the bat around. Perfect bunt. They throw the ball away at first. Tying run scores, winning run. We win the game on his bunt. So it's like, what could have gone wrong? True story.
Everything could have gone wrong. Hollywood movie moment. I mean, we're literally trying to pick him up and carry him off the field.
But we can't because he's in so much pain. And what we realized is the ball never touched the bat.
It hit his hand?
It hit his hand. And he's like, look at my hand. I was like, oh, you'll be all right. It actually should have been a hit by pitch because he hit his hand. So he's like, well, I'm worried about it. And I was like, oh, you'll be fine. You know, the mom was like, oh, it's great, but look at his hand. As well as, oh, he'll be all right. I'm back home. We're still basking in our first win. I get a call from her, and she's like, his hand is broken.
Oh, boy.
He is out for the year. So I don't guess we'll be seeing you anymore. And I'm like, oh, no. I need him. Y'all, he will be the motivational factor. And then the next game, we lost our catcher who broke his leg. Same thing happened. These are the two guys that were at the end. So they became our inspiration. And then I felt bad about making him bunt because he broke his hand, So anyway, what do you think? If you think this will be a good movie, that's just one of the storylines. I mean, it's just incredible. And then we never lost another game because Missy keeps saying, you have to make a movie. But there were so many things that happened during that year that I just kind of didn't stop and appreciate, I mean, I remember the umpire calling timeout one time. Come on, so what's the problem? He's like, your left fielder is in a fight. I looked out there, and my left fielder is rolling around on the ground with two other people who had jumped the fence while the game is going on. Because I told you these kids had problem lives. There were two of his friends from school. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I ran out there, and I'm like, who are you? Who are the other two kids? They take off running. I'm like, what are you doing? But really, I mean, it wasn't his fault. He's out there playing left field, and two guys, which he gets kicked out of the game, which is the only time I really argued with the umpire because I'm like, he's in left field and two people jump a fence. How is that his fault? He was attacked, But it's because you have to take up for the kid somewhat. But then I'm like, we had to have a long conversation on what led to two young men feeling that disdain against you that they want to jump a fence while a game is going on.
I think we should definitely make this movie. This is a great idea because, we just did a bunch of media for our movie, and they were like, "Who's the next person in your family is going to do a movie?" And I was like, "I have no idea."
Well, I'm pitching it right now. I mean, Missy has convinced me. Because I was so close to the situation, I just didn't. I didn't realize all that was going on, I guess, as far as making a movie. But it was the Good News Bears.
Good News Bears.
Who looked like the Bad News Bears.
Yeah.
But through the good news of Jesus, and not just that we were sharing sermons with them, we were just being mentors to them. We taught them the game of baseball. They came together as a team, and we literally did the impossible. which was win that league with not the best team. We did not have the best team, but we won it, and we were scrappy, and we did pick up, we had a couple of studs, but overall, that doesn't mean anything. That's why I love the game of baseball. It's a beautiful game, and if you come together and get your mind right, look, you just wouldn't believe what'll happen. So,
well, because it's different. It's so different than the other major sports because, you talk about size and all that's still there in terms of athletics and all that. But baseball has always been a little bit unique because it does seem that kids can rally and do something and beat kids that are maybe better athletes than them or maybe have a better pedigree and all the other things, which is why I think it's always been like, you think about all the great baseball movies, there's a lot of great ones, which you mentioned Bad News Bears. It was a great.
Yeah. Well, even my introduction to these kids, I had an advisor who knew all the players, knew all the kids. He was sitting there, and every time the same thing. I was like, what about this kid? And he's like, great athlete, hit the ball, terrible home life, and I'd pick him. He's like, why'd you just pick him? I was like, I'm not worried about that part. That's
what you want to help.
They need that. So look, that repeated itself over and over. Oh, this kid, he was in a juvenile home, for whatever. But I tell you what, he can hit a baseball. I'm like, I want that guy right there, And so that was, it was kind of comical, because I thought, because deep down, wasn't about baseball to me. I thought, let's give these kids a positive experience. Maybe it'll be a catalyst for them, to find meaning in life and flourish. You realize that experience for me on the baseball field really showed this cycle of, especially generational, that you're having kids, you got a bunch of baggage, then you're passing that on to your kids, and they're passing it on to their kids, and which was shown so much through that season. One of the best players that we had, who was the guy that I removed from the game after the first pitch, because what happened was, we've gone through practice, and I thought this kid is a stud, and he eventually led our team in home runs and was one of our best pitchers. But he threw the first pitch of the game, looked like a strike. The umpire, ball. Look, these umpires that they have up here, they're making $30.
Yeah,
they have no experience. It's just some dude.
Yeah.
So what are we going to be shocked that he gets some of it wrong? That was my whole attitude. But anyway, he calls it a ball. This kid, meltdown. The mom stands up, 4-letter words, hollering, and I'm like, timeout. Okay, little talk with the kid. You're done. And what was fascinating to me, he's like, well, coach, the rules say I got to play 2 innings. And I said, well, I'll go to court over that. Because you're sitting on that bench. We overcome adversity. We do not throw temper tantrums on the mound at 14 years of age because the umpire missed the call. You're done. The mom, I was like, you're out of here. Go way away. And look, she never came back. She was back, smoking a couple of packs of cigarettes per game, way away from the game, because that worked from that point on,
Yeah.
But you can't be showing this kind of example because you're putting way too much pressure on your kid. I see why he's acting like this, because you're acting like that from the stand. We must break this cycle, and that's why I said through the year, they both changed their demeanor. They changed how they were, and. Look, at the end of it, after we won, we all gathered together. There were tears flowing. There were people hugging. This was a positive experience. But it was messy breaking that cycle. And we're just talking about one aspect of their life, the game of baseball. Can you imagine what else was going on behind the scenes?